Hi there, and welcome to the Alberta Update, a look at what's happening in your province, a first-hand look. I am your host, Bruce McAllister. Thanks for being with us today. We have so much coming up today. The Minister of Education will be by to talk about the unprecedented school announcement in the province. The Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services will pop by to chat about changes the government is making to help keep you safer on Alberta streets. But before we get to that, Premier Danielle Smith releasing a video this week talking about the Alberta Bill of Rights, which will be introduced this fall. The Premier is standing by, but first, here's a look at the video.
My fellow Albertans, I have some exciting news to share with you today about an important step forward for our province in protecting the rights and freedoms that are central to our identity as Albertans. In a few weeks' time, our UCP government will be introducing legislation to amend and strengthen the Alberta Bill of Rights, a document that has stood as a safeguard for our civil liberties and freedoms for decades. Since its inception, the Alberta Bill of Rights has been a reflection of our shared values, recognizing the fundamental rights and freedoms that are essential to a free and democratic society. It enshrines the principles that every Albertan holds dear: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to equality before the law, among other fundamental rights. It serves much like a constitutional document in that it ensures all provincial laws and policies must align with those listed rights and freedoms. Now, the Bill of Rights has served its purpose well over the years, but as our society evolves, so too must our laws to ensure our rights and freedoms remain properly protected in an ever-changing world. One of the amendments we are making to the Bill of Rights is to reinforce the right of every Albertan to make their own choices regarding the medical treatments they receive. This includes ensuring that every individual in our province who has the mental capacity to do so will have the right to decide whether or not to receive a vaccination or other medical procedure. In recent years, we've seen the challenges and hardship that can arise when that right to bodily autonomy is not adequately protected. It is my firm conviction that no Albertan should ever be subjected or pressured into accepting a medical treatment without their full consent. For me, this addition to the Bill of Rights is about recognizing that in Alberta, we believe that individuals have the right to make informed decisions about their own bodies without fear of undue pressure or interference by government. The amended Bill of Rights will also strengthen property rights, another cornerstone of living in a free and democratic society. The amendments will ensure that no Albertan can be deprived of their property without due process of law and just compensation. This is a reaffirmation of your right to own and enjoy the property that you've worked so hard for. There will also be an amendment to make clear that in Alberta, we respect the right of individuals to legally acquire, keep, and safely use firearms. For many Albertans, firearms are critical to their livelihood and way of life. I personally feel that law-abiding firearms owners have been unfairly targeted by our federal government for decades, and it is my hope that these amendments will better protect the rights of our farmers, ranchers, hunters, and sport enthusiasts going forward. I'd like to share that in my view, these amendments to the Bill of Rights are not just legal changes. They are a reaffirmation of the values that make Alberta one of the freest jurisdictions on earth. They are about protecting our rights, our freedoms, and our way of life. We are sending a clear message that in Alberta, the rights of individuals are paramount and that government must respect those rights at every turn. As your Premier, it is my duty and my honor to stand up for your rights. I believe deeply in the principles of individual freedom and personal responsibility that have guided and built this province for generations. Thank you for your trust and commitment to the values that make Alberta the amazing province and beacon of freedom we have become in the world.
All right, and with that, we say good day to Premier Danielle Smith. Nice to see you, Premier. As always, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Bruce.
So we want to start talking about the video, the upcoming Bill of Rights that you are addressing in the legislature. What led to the creation of these amendments?
Oh boy, I almost feel like I could go back down memory lane to when I first started in advocacy in 1997. I was an advocate for the Canadian Property Rights Research Institute. And one of the things I've always been frustrated by is that we didn't have adequate protection for property rights in our various bills of right. There wasn't a provision for just compensation in the event that government takes private property for public use. That's one thing I've always wanted to remedy. I've also watched our firearms owners continue to be victimized year after year after year. The federal government should be legislating around the criminal use of firearms, not trying to make our law-abiding firearms owners into criminals by just a change of the law. And so we wanted to assert that firearms ownership and usage is a value in Alberta. And then, of course, we wanted to make sure that we were addressing some of the grave issues that came about as a result of the COVID pandemic, where people felt like their bodily autonomy and the right to make their own medical choices were not being respected. And as well, wanted to protect free expression rights. There are many, many people who felt shouted down and canceled in the public square. And we want to make sure that people know that their Alberta government is not going to do that to them, that we're going to protect their rights.
Well, we've seen a lot of that in federal circles for sure. Some of the bills that are going through. Look, you may have just addressed this, but I'd like to follow up anyway. How will this, in your hope, in your vision, help shape the future of Alberta differently?
Well, a couple of things I'd say is I don't I want to see and test whether or not the federal government has gone too far in its application of the criminal law. We know that they did when they overreached with things like Bill C-69, that No More Pipelines bill, when they overreached by declaring plastics toxic. Part of it is that they use this criminal law power that they have, and the courts have said, wait a minute, that's not an appropriate use of it. Well, property and civil rights are the purview of the provinces to regulate. And so I'm prepared to test that out to see if the federal government decides to take property or regulate away its use to see whether or not we can offer some protections to Albertans. What we do know is that regardless of whatever pending future battles there might be with the federal government, what people can be rest assured is that Alberta has taken a very clear stand here. We believe that the provincial government should be a bastion of freedom for those who want to come here, and that we want to make sure that we're conducting ourselves in a way that respects these rights. And I think that that's a very good signal for us to send.
I'm going to park the federal government for a second, but I promise you I'm coming back to it because there's reason to this week. First, though, the unprecedented school announcement that Education Minister Demetrios Nicolaides and yourself made in the province. This is something when you add up the numbers. I know that you were a driving force behind that. Has it just gotten to the point where something large like this needed to be done?
Oh my goodness. I mean, we had a number of years where enrollment was pretty well flat. And so we were able to manage the new school enrollment with the existing open space. We had a problem of certain schools in established neighborhoods having low utilization rates. Well, in the last year or so, we've had 50,000 newcomers come to Alberta this year, 200,000 who came in 2023. And as a result, our classrooms are bursting at the seams almost uniformly across the entire province, but especially in our large and mid-sized cities. And so we knew that in order to be able to catch up and keep up with that, we have to accelerate some of the existing projects that are on the table with construction dollars. And we also have to work with the municipalities to get more of those sites available so that as soon as they're ready, we're able to put shovels in the ground. So that's what we've challenged our school boards and our municipalities to do, is work with us. We want to get 30 schools built this year, 30 next year, 30 the year after that, and then within 7 years have 200,000 new school spaces, including support for alternative deliveries of education too, like our charter schools. And we'll see what kind of proposals come in with our independent schools as well. We want to make sure that we're supporting all types of choice for parents as they're making the decisions of what's best for their kids.
Well, it is bold, but boy, parents sure seem to be receiving the news well. You should know, by the way, your education minister, Demetrios Nicolaides, is standing by. We're going to talk to him and flesh this out in a few more minutes and talk a little bit more about it. Hey, cost of living is such an issue for Albertans. You're introducing the rate of last resort to apply to utility bills. What is it, and how does it work?
The rate of last resort, people called it the regulated rate option before, but we're actually calling it what it really is. When you think, wow, rate of last resort, that must be the worst rate. That's kind of what we want people to think, because we want them to shop around. We want them to look for a better rate. We want them to be mindful about what they're choosing, because what has happened is that there's been a false sense of security that has happened over the last 30 years or so with the regulated rate option where people think they're protected. And as a result, when we saw that rate spike to an unprecedented level of 32 cents a kilowatt hour last summer, people got hurt. It was really hard for a lot of people who were on fixed income and low income, and we don't ever want to see that happen again. So we are naming it properly so people are given the signal that they should shop around because there probably is a better rate to be had, but also providing some stability and protection for those who just want a default rate, who don't want to spend the time on it. They'll probably end up paying a couple cents premium, but they'll at least have stability from month to month and year to year so that they don't end up with those huge spikes in their power bills again. It's hard for residents. It's hard for small businesses. It's even hard for some of the large electricity users where they were timing when to be in operation based on what their power rates were. And we shouldn't have that. Electricity prices should be one of the Alberta advantages that we're able to offer by being able to have stability and affordability.
All right, promised you one question on the federal government. Here it is. The federal government taking yet another shot at the energy industry yesterday. Federal Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson, I believe he said that we were winding down in the oil and gas industry, and production will be, winding down over the years ahead. That's a pretty alarming statement to make, not just for Albertans, but I think for Canadians in general, and probably people around the world who rely on energy. What are your thoughts on what he had to say?
Well, let me be restrained because you can imagine what I thought when I saw that. But what I will say is he's wrong. Number one, it is not his decision to make because resources fall firmly within the hands of the provinces. Alberta owns 85% of the resource, and I have already said that our aspiration is to double our oil and gas production, and we will reduce emissions the smart way. We'll do it by exporting lower emitting fuels like LNG and ammonia and hydrogen. We will do it by using carbon capture, utilization, and storage to capture and sequester the CO2 emissions, as we've been doing for decades with enhanced oil recovery using CO2 and other types of innovations. So through technology, we'll be able to address both. We'll be able to continue producing this resource that the world needs, that we are the best provider of as a reliable democratic partner, but we'll also reduce emissions. So quite frankly, he's wrong. And it's not in his purview anyway. And it just underscores why we've been fighting with the federal governments, because in their honest moments, they tell us what they really want to do. They tell us they want to shut the industry down. They tell us they want to keep it in the ground. And that's why we've got to make sure that we're fighting on behalf of all Albertans and all Canadians. It is the largest amount of contributor to our GDP. It is the largest export. It generates a massive amount of revenue, not only for us, but also for Ottawa, which they then use to help subsidize the programs that they deliver in the rest of Canada. So we are not going to be apologetic about providing a product that the world needs. We're going to do it responsibly. And I wish that he would get on board with that vision, because he continues to antagonize our energy sector and continues to step outside the federal lane.
Well said. I'm sure a lot of Albertans are thankful you were there to address it. Premier, as always, thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Talk to you again, Bruce.
Well, I am sure you have heard about the announcement. Alberta's government is committing $8.6 billion, that's billion with a B, to complete and open 200,000 new student spaces across the province in the next 7 years. The Minister of Education, Demetrios Nicolaides, joining us to chat more about this announcement and the impact it will have on generations to come. Good day, Minister.
Good day. How are you?
Hey, great. Listen, this announcement has so many parents talking. Everybody's talking about it, frankly. It is unprecedented, probably the largest of its kind in the country. How many schools are you going to build and modernize?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very ambitious plan, but one that we're confident we'll be able to deliver on. We're shooting to be able to create 200,000 spaces by 2031. That boils down to about 90 new schools and 24 modernizations. So every year, starting in budget 25 for the next 3 years, we will be able to move 30 new school projects forward and about 8 modernizations or replacements forward every year, again, for the next 3 years. So it's quite an ambitious plan, but we're absolutely confident in our ability to be able to deliver.
When we're talking about modernizing or replenishing old schools, that can mean a lot of things. What does it entail, and why are we approaching it that way?
Yeah, so we have a dual challenge right now in Alberta. We have historic population growth rates, and with that, we're also seeing historic enrollment pressures at our schools. So there's an urgent need to build new schools in fast-growing communities. I think every Albertan can see firsthand new communities popping up. I was just in Cochrane today for a groundbreaking ceremony, and new communities are springing up very quickly. So we have to build new schools to accommodate the growth, but at the same time, we also have aging infrastructure, primarily in some of our smaller or more rural communities. So we also have to invest dollars to modernize those facilities. So that can help to expand the life expectancy of older facilities, or even completely replace them if that's needed. So that's the primary target with the modernizations, is to make sure existing schools are able to continue to operate, systems are able to be updated and modernized, or even completely replaced if necessary.
Well, that makes sense. Boy, you think of communities like Cochrane, and also, I suppose, Airdrie and Chestermere around Calgary, and you've got a similar story around Edmonton and how fast they are growing. Listen, this wasn't just public schools; it was charter, independent. Um, it was francophone. Basically, your government's mandate is pro-choice, and you certainly hit the bill when or fits the bill when it comes to this announcement, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to make sure that we are investing and providing opportunities to expand spaces in public, Catholic, Francophone, charter, and not-for-profit private schools as well. This is important because we want to make sure that there's a diversity of options available for students and families. Recognizing as well that a lot of charter and not-for-profit private schools operate to serve students with special needs. Just thinking right here in Calgary, Calgary Academy, as an example, provides support for students with learning disabilities. There are equivalents in Edmonton. There are charter schools for gifted students. So if we can work with those partners to expand programming in those areas, we can make sure that students are able to receive the specialized care and attention that they need and deserve.
You will need cooperation, of course, from local municipalities and school boards. Can you explain, Minister, how these three groups work together on what is really a complex need to make sure that it happens?
Yeah, absolutely. There needs to be very close cooperation between government, the school division, and the municipality. Municipalities have the obligation to set land aside for school divisions, and then, of course, the school divisions identify the priority projects and let us know which schools they'd like us to build, and then we get moving on building those schools. A lot of the cooperation is in the planning stage, so they need to work together, the school division and the municipality, to ensure that permits are in place, to ensure that sites are serviced. There's proper road access. There are utilities going into the site. That, especially if it's a new community, that they're working with the local developer to make sure that the site is cleared and ready. Sometimes developers may have equipment or other things on those sites that they're setting aside. So there needs to be a lot of cooperation. That's why we're asking municipalities to prioritize requests that are coming in from school divisions around permits, access, utilities, and other components.
Look, this is an ambitious program, 200,000 new spaces. So I'll ask you the question that's probably on the minds of many. When will we see these spaces available for kids?
Yeah, we'll start to see the spaces come online in 2027 and in subsequent years. Of course, it can take a few years to build a school from start to finish. However, we're confident that we'll be able to shave some time off of the process and build the schools a little bit faster. We've changed our process about how we approve projects, so we hope that that will speed things up a little bit. And as well, if we're able to work with the municipalities and have them prioritize requests from school divisions around permits and other things, we're hoping that can speed things up as well. But we should see these start to come online in that time frame. And in our cooperation and collaboration with Alberta Infrastructure, they're confident in their ability to be able to deliver these projects.
Well, something had to be done, certainly, Minister. So good luck to you on this. Listen, as always, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, anytime.
The mental health and well-being of our children is a priority, of course, for all families and parents. That is why the government is making progress on its promise to open 60 mental health classrooms across the province to expand services to more children and youth in Alberta. These classrooms mean students facing complex mental health challenges can receive professional care without disrupting their education. One mom we spoke to shared her family's experience with classrooms and why she's excited to see more of these services in Alberta.
My name is Alicia Long, and I'm a mother of 2 wonderful children. In the past, my daughter had a terrible traumatic incident, and it left her with mental, emotional, and physical distress that we as parents were completely unequipped to assist her with. We used many support resources throughout Alberta, one of which was CASA Mental Health, and more specifically, the CASA Classrooms. The CASA Classrooms offered a unique blend between a school environment and guided therapy. The CASA Classroom has been a great success for our daughter. And I'm honored to be here today to help announce this next rollout of this amazing program so more families who need the help get it.
CASA mental health classrooms are designed to support students from grades 4 to 12. 9 of these new classrooms opened across the province to start this school year. Transport Canada estimates that there will be a massive shortage of workers in the aviation sector from 2025 to 2035. Alberta's government is revolutionizing aviation training by supporting cutting-edge virtual reality technology to address the sector's pressing workplace challenges. Elevate Aviation's VR maintenance training system uses immersive VR technology to create lifelike training environments in a risk-free setting. This dynamic approach will accelerate learning and give graduates the experience they need to be industry ready from day one. Investments in skilled worker training like this are central to Alberta's strategy for economic growth, diversification, and resilience. Addressing crime in our communities is a priority for the Alberta government, and a new team of Alberta sheriffs is now on the ground to help bring wanted criminals to justice. Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services Mike Ellis is the man behind this program. He joins us now to talk more about the work about the program. First, we say good day. How are you, Minister?
Good. Well, thank you very much for having me on the show, Bruce. Just to let you know, I'm at the Alberta Urban Municipalities Conference right now, so it might be a little loud in the background, but happy to be on your show.
Yeah, well, happy you could step away for a minute, Minister. I had to tell your staff how badly we need you to address these things. So I know you're up against it for time. But listen, this is worth discussing, and I know people will want to hear about it in the province. The Fugitive Apprehension Sheriff Support Team, that's also known as FAST, was established earlier this year. What has the team accomplished, I guess, so far? It's been about 7 months.
Yeah, appreciate that. Really phenomenal work being done by these officers. Started in Edmonton, and certainly has provided service not just in Edmonton but throughout Alberta. And the most recent announcement is that it's going to be operating in Calgary as well. Just over since February, they've been able to execute over 1,300 warrants. Over 300 fugitives have been taken off the streets, and not just in Edmonton, but in rural municipalities as well. Those 260 of those are what are known as Tier 1 fugitives. So those are your high-risk offenders or offenders that pose a serious risk to the community. And, I can tell you in the first few days of operations, they were able to take somebody who was wanted for first-degree murder off the streets. They were also able to take somebody who was a pedophile off the streets. So phenomenal work being done by these officers.
Listen, that's a tremendous success in itself. How do they support Alberta's existing police officers? They must work together in some fashion.
Yeah, well, this is part of the announcement we had with Calgary. They worked out a few details, but really, again, it's about augmenting and supporting all municipalities and police services throughout the province. Obviously, we know that the number one priority for police officers is to take 911 calls and address the community concerns. So if we can alleviate some of that pressure, which is what we're trying to do, so we're helping Calgary, Edmonton, the folks in the RCMP, anyone who might have fugitives that might be outstanding, people that might be out on parole that are high risk to offend, people that are out on statutory release. I mean, let me put this in perspective, Bruce. Just in Alberta alone, we have over 82,000. That's 82,000 outstanding warrants in the province of Alberta. So there's no shortage of warrants or outstanding offenders in this province right now.
It's almost hard to comprehend. It really is. Hey, listen, you mentioned the RCMP. This week you announced a new initiative to give Albertans a stronger voice in setting priorities for communities that are policed by the RCMP. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, it's the police governance. It's police governance, and this came out of the Police Amendment Act that we passed in 2022. Really, it's an order in council that was passed. Has to do with the regulations. It's really meant to provide better oversight of the RCMP by jurisdictions that have contract policing with the RCMP. So if you're in a rural municipality and you want to have more say as to how the operations are of the RCMP or the input from a community perspective, then that's what this is meant to do. It's something that's going to take place on March 1st of 2025. And, we're really excited about the work that was done. We're really excited about engaging with municipalities all throughout the province. And, conversations we've had with the RCMP as well is, they understand that they need to be more responsive to the community. And this is what this is meant to solve.
I think it was back in April, Minister, you announced some changes to victim services, or a new plan, a new program was put into place. Can you update us on how victims of crime are being helped by what was implemented?
Yeah, I mean, really, there was massive holes in that system. What we are offering is something was predictable, sustainable funding. Right now, or what previously, the previous model was very, very piecemeal. It's not to suggest in any way that there wasn't great work being done by great people, but there was a lot of communities that had no victim services whatsoever, and that's unfortunate and something that should not be happening. So we made sure that we provided predictable, sustainable funding, that we have consistency throughout the province, that really it's about victims first, victims of crime, victims of tragedy, and making sure that from a local level that we're utilizing people that are from the community to be a part of this program, and that they can be solely focused on the victims and not have to worry about administrative burdens or any of the kind of nuances when it comes to operating a victim services unit that is taking away from actually helping the victim. And that's something, we'll leave it to the province to deal with that sort of aspect of things. Really, this is about victims and making sure that they're getting their needs met as a victim of tragedy or crime.
Minister, just before I let you go, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about this. Friday, the 27th, Police and Peace Officers Memorial Day. This will be near and dear to your heart, of course, as a former police officer. What would your message be to those that put their lives on the line for the rest of us?
Well, I'm sure it doesn't go far enough, but the simple word is thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for waking up in the morning and putting on that uniform and serving the public. It's not an easy job. I did it myself for many years. It has a toll on you physically. It has a toll on you mentally, and there's risk. And I think we all understand that risk when we put that uniform on. But it's a day like today where we can appreciate and thank those who put the uniform on in order to keep us safe. So I say it again, thank you for your service.
Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services, thank you for your time. We'll let you get back to it.
Thank you, sir.
There is Mike Ellis joining us on the Alberta Update today. Well, the province has been working to reduce Albertans' power bills, and they've been successful as well. In May, legislation was introduced to standardize local access fees, preventing municipalities from using variable rates in utility contracts. Now, this change, which previously acted as a regressive municipal tax, has led to a 30% reduction in total access fees in Calgary. By the city's own estimates, this switch means Calgarians will save over $36 million. That is next year alone. Additionally, a new regulation that came into effect in July helped cut default power prices by nearly 60% year over year. And these actions are part of a broader plan to modernize Alberta's electricity system and lower utility costs long term. More Albertans living in remote communities will soon have better and more timely access to screening for lung conditions, including cancer. Alberta's government and the Alberta Cancer Foundation, in partnership with 19 to 0, are investing $3 million to deploy mobile lung health units to underserved rural communities.
We want to drive the pace of innovation rather than waiting for it to come someplace else. And I think this initiative is the spirit of that. In fact, these mobile units are literally going to be driving to communities across our province, bringing a vital service to many Albertans. So I want to thank the Government of Alberta and Minister LaGrange for your leadership, for your partnership in recognizing the need in our province and acting on it.
We are excited to be working alongside schools, employers, municipalities, Indigenous communities, firefighter associations, healthcare providers, employers, and other organizations and partners across this province to support the lung health of Albertans.
To ensure that Albertans get the help that they need closer to home, the government is also investing over $15 million to improve healthcare services in rural and remote communities. This investment will support the construction of a new dialysis unit in Lloydminster, the construction of the ambulance station in Slave Lake, and will enhance kidney care services for residents of Grand Prairie and its surrounding area. These just a few of the over 44 rural healthcare facilities the government is investing in. Since launching in 2021, the Rural Health Facilities Revitalization Program has invested $115 million to renovate rural healthcare facilities and equip them with new technology. The province's film and television industry is being strengthened through the Alberta-made Screening in Industries program, aiming to tell more Alberta stories and support a growing skilled workforce. The program offers 3 grant streams that support local filmmakers, studios, and smaller productions, which are great for training new talent. Tanya Furr is the Minister of Arts, Culture, and Status of Women, saying investments like this bring more productions to the province and they create jobs. One Alberta-born and raised producer saying it also helped to showcase and create stories rooted here in Alberta.
For every dollar of government support through the production grant stream, the industry generates $4 of investment back into the province. That is a solid return on investment for Alberta. Further, half of Alberta-made productions have filmed or plan to film in small cities, towns, or rural locations, extending outside of Calgary or Edmonton, extending the positive economic impact across the province.
These Alberta-based programs that are supported by the AMPG and the Script Development Program, we are able to attract buyers to our province, hire Alberta crews, and pay local taxes to tell Alberta stories.
Additionally, Alberta is committing $90,000 over 2 years to the Calgary International Film Festival, which helps showcase, of course, Alberta-made talent and content and quality films for the Academy Awards. Well, the mountain community of Jasper has started its journey to recovery, of course, after the devastating fires that tore through that community this summer. Part of that recovery includes welcoming back tourists, which are a lifeline and so much a part of that community, its history and its future. Many people have asked how they can help. One of the best ways to support Jasper's recovery is to visit.
If you've ever been to Jasper, you know that the spirit here is real, and the falls can lift you up. You know that wildlife has the right of way, and the way the sky comes alive at night. You know that no matter where you're from, when you're here, you're home. If you've ever been to Jasper, you know you'll be back. And you know Jasper will be back too.
Well, that does it for this episode of the Alberta Update as we bring you a first-hand look at what's happening in your province. A reminder to find us on YouTube and certainly share the program with your friends and family. We will record the Alberta Update every couple of weeks and every week when the Alberta Legislature goes into session. Thank you for joining us this week, and we'll see you again next time. Good day.